I am rereading the Court of Thorns and Roses series by Sarah J. Maas for the Lovember readathon. I first read this book, I think just after I finished college, because I just checked. This came out in 2015, I believe. So it might be a couple of years after college. I do remember finding about this book on Tumblr. And then from there, when reading it and doing what, I discovered BookTube. I remember that. And I guess this is like one of those, maybe not the first books, but one of the first very, very popular books that dealt with the whole fantasy romance genre and with, humans finding the fae and the fairy people and, forming relationships. Right, so this one, that's the first one, basically is a Beauty and the Beast retelling in which we follow Feyre. I know I said Freya in my TBR video, but it's Feyre. Oh Lord. Anyway, so basically she kills a wolf in her woods, and turns out the wolf was a fae, and his lord comes to, I guess, not vengeance, but basically there was a war between the humans and the fae years ago, and there was a treaty, and because of that treaty he can exact his revenge, I guess. And he does so by basically making Feyre live in his court, in his house and whatnot. And then, she finds out about the fae and whatnot. So, since I've read this, I'm pretty sure I remember what happens in the first book. The goal of me rereading this is to read the fourth book in the series, because the fourth one deals with Nesta, Feyre's sister. And if you haven't read The Court of Thorns and Roses recently, Nesta is fucking horrible. She is, I think, the most privileged white girl ever. Like, if you can imagine that in your head, that's what she is. She is cruel to to Feyre, who is basically the breadwinner of the family. They're so poor. They used to be rich, but now they're poor. And Nesta basically just goes around being surly and hateful towards everyone but her youngest sister, Nesta. No, Nesta. What's the youngest sister's name? Something starts with E. Doesn't matter. And she's so awful. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Because reading this, and you're like, okay, so I have no idea how Sarah J. Maas will make me want to read something that is connected to Nesta. And, I mean, I know what happens in the later books and, whatever, but she is as nasty as she is, throughout the whole first trilogy of the series. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But what I wanted to say, Feyre, because of her situation, like being poor and being the breadwinner and being treated horribly by her family, hates herself. And she has, hung-ups and whatnot. So when she gets to the fairy court, she basically unleashes all her prejudice and everything, because she's been taught about the fairies, they're evil, they're whatnot. And, that affects the relationship between her and Tamlin, the high fae that she's now hanging out with for a considerable amount of time. And Lord, she's very mercurial, and she's very, it's a young adult fantasy romance. So, the character is behaving in a way that, you would expect. And it's ridiculous. And to see how she is being manipulated because of reasons. Okay, this is going to be a spoilery vlog, because, hoping the people who watch the video, read the series. So, yeah. So, if I remember correctly, the whole reason that she is there is because some evil woman, witch, fae thing, basically cast a spell on the court and on, the entire kingdom. On the Spring Court, that they're in masks and their magic is faltering, whatnot. So the only way that they can lift the curse is to find a human who hates a fae and make them fall in love or love the fae or something like that, if I remember correctly. So basically the entire thing that Tamlin and Lucian and everyone else is doing in the Spring Court is manipulating Feyre into loving them. And it's fascinating now reading it back, but it's also you can totally see it. And, it really paints the whole thing in a different light when you're reading, all the things that Tamlin is doing with that for Feyre, and, how the relationship is progressing and whatnot. Now I am at halfway of this book. we met recent, even though we don't know even if we don't know that it's recent, I know it's recent, and that was kind of cool. But yeah, she's settling in her life at the Fae court, and she's now starting to wear dresses, basically leaving her old life behind, and just accepting that she is where she is, and that. I guess she's being open to a relationship with Tamlin, which means that now shit is about to go down and everything is going to be revealed soon, and that will be interesting to see. Yeah, I'll talk to you when I probably finish this. Okay, so I am now at the part where Feyre, she was sent back by Tamlin to her family, and then she went back to him because she loves him and whatnot, and now she's at beneath the mountain at the court of the evil Fae lady Amarantha, and she's being sort of brought to her. She has to do the challenges so she can rescue Tamlin and his entire court. So here's the thing: she gets to the spring court after being away, finding out that everything is destroyed and whatnot, and she finds Alice, one of the maids that helped her while she was there, and basically Alice spent like time yelling at her and like how she ruined them all because she didn't fix the curse that she didn't know that was there, like how she could have helped them all if she just told Tamlin that she loved him, and that would break the whole curse that the Amarantha chick has over Tamlin and the spring court and the entirety, I guess, of the Fae people here in this land. And it was so fucking ridiculous. I kept like giggling through the entire thing because it's like, how can she help you if she doesn't know something's there? Anyway, so now we're at the court. Feyre is being tortured and whatnot, and she has to go through the challenges, whatever, 3 tasks, and now she hears the riddle. Now I remember when I read this for the first time, I knew the answer immediately. I was like, okay, the answer is love. And and now Feyre's, first time hearing the riddle, she's all like down on herself, and this is like where all her, I don't know, it's not is it self-hate? I think she basically, she doesn't appreciate herself, and she doesn't like herself at all. So basically all her insecurities come up front, and it's so annoying to read, knowing that this was the standard for female characters, almost 10 years ago. Someone that these books, and also right now, are very popular with young people on TikTok and whatnot, and it's just so disheartening to see that this is the character. I mean, I know she's gonna like fight through it and figure it out all in the end, but most of this book, Feyre, other than being very mercurial towards Tamlin, basically spend most of this time being down on herself, and that is a bit frustrating to read, knowing how this goes on and how this develops. I know the second and the third book are much better than this one. But yeah, this is a bit annoying, and I'm just going to continue listening to this, and just hopefully this goes by quickly, because, dude, like, I know Sarah J. Maas's first books of the series are a bit rough, and you basically have to survive them and get to the good parts. Rereading this book after years of reading other stuff and years of getting to know my own taste and getting a reading taste and getting to know better writing, this is kind of cringe. It's cringe. It is cringe. Like, I cringed so many times during reading this book with things that Tamlin says, with Feyre's thoughts and so on. Oh Lord. Anyway, I'll continue and I'll talk to you when I finish it. The lighting is not the best, but what can you do? So, day 1 of the readathon, and I finished this. It's not a tiny book, it's 400 pages. But yeah, so I finished it. It is the last third that basically sells you on continuing reading the series, because the last third is really good. Really tense and keeps you reading on. It's emotional, it's angsty, it's great. We are ignoring the fact that the riddle was really easy to solve. And you might want to gloss over the fact that Feyre simps over Tamlin. I can't believe I just used that word. It seems like insta-love, but it's not, because, you have that one sentence, and now I've been painting for weeks now, whatever. She basically spends a couple, 3 or 4 months there at the spring court, slowly falling in love with Tamlin and whatever the Fae, and she basically somehow from those 3 months puts it inside her head that she is responsible for him and his people, so that's why she sacrifices basically herself for him and his people. Which, if I remember correctly, it is appreciated, but her well-being will not be in the second one. We'll see what happens. I really enjoyed that last third. It really kept me going and really, made me pumped up to read the second one, which I'm going to start reading quite soon. Before I get to that, let's go through the prompts for the Lovember tic-tac-toe board. So I basically picked the rogue column, and so the first one is fantasy. So since this is a fantasy romance, it fits that prompt. The second one is criminal, which is giving me some pause because technically, even though this book spent the last third of its story setting up a relationship between our main character and not her original love interest, and that other character being Rhysand, and he's sort of, is he a criminal element here? No. He's like frowned upon, but not criminal. So, nothing. I mean, I can't even tell you that Feyre is a poacher because she's not. Because people have been, there isn't like a lord that they have to, be aware of or whatnot. So yeah, we'll see if we can fit the criminal prompt in the second book in the series. But hate to love definitely fits here because Feyre starts hating Tamlin to falling in love with him in like a short period of time. But I'm doing good. So for the first, day of this readathon, which is awesome. So I'm going to continue on with the second one. In the second one, if I remember correctly, so during the first one, during the trials, Feyre made a deal with Rhysand that she's going to spend 1 week of every month with him in his court. And in the second book, that starts, and also her damage from the trials is well evident and well ignored by Tamlin. That's why he becomes from awesome Tamlin to Tamlin the Tool in the second one. And basically this sort of, it's going to be angsty. I like how Sarah J. Maas writes characters that have PTSD, and it's going to make it an interesting read. It is bigger than the first one in the series. The first one was like 400 pages, and this one is, okay, I'm at 620 now, and there's stuff going on. I'm going to go read that, and I'll talk to you a bit later. I'm a bad vlogger, so I forgot to vlog yesterday, but something did happen yesterday. I finished this one, yay! So I started this the day before and I finished it yesterday, and I went on to the third one. So in the second one, the story continues on pretty much immediately after the events of the first one. So Feyre is now back at the Supreme Court with Tamlin, and she's going through PTSD from her experience from in the court under the mountain. And we see that Tamlin has... See, here's the thing. He's not very understanding to her plight. I'm pretty sure he is ignoring it, hoping it will just go away. See, here's the thing. We don't know if he shows his true colors or, if this is just the effect of, being technically imprisoned or under curse for 50 years. And, because he, I guess, built this idea in his head that he's the savior and that his... fairy princess is supposed to be this perfect, innocent, sort of protected thing, and Feyre is not any of those things. So this is where the conflict starts, because she wants her freedom, and she wants to be able to heal, able to roam, able to feel useful, because that's what she did. Like we saw that in the first book. She's always working to help her family, to help them survive, and then after this big ordeal, she's basically sat around and going on walks in the garden, not being able to help the people, or just walk around outside of the protection of the house. Okay, so she falls more and more into depression, and on her wedding day to Tamlin, she basically freaks out, and she is rescued by Rhysand by claiming their bargain that they made in the first book, that she's supposed to spend a week with him every month. So she's been so the bargain's been ignored by Rhysand, for the last 3 months. So when he heard her, because there is a connection between them because of the bargain, when he heard her calling for help. He came in and got her for a week, and basically teaching her how to read and healing and whatnot. And here starts sort of the beginnings of the relationship between the two of them. So at one point, Tamlin traps Feyre in her house, like literally traps her there with a shield, and she freaks out completely. And then that's when Rhysand and his court come and save her, and that's when she's basically staying at the Night Court. And that's when all the awesome stuff starts happening. So the thing with this book, I remember reading this for the first time, and Tamlin the Tool thing became very popular on Tumblr. Maybe it started somewhere else, but I knew it from Tumblr. And I would totally agree. I mean, his reactions and actions in this one really does not paint him in the most flattering light. You get to learn about Rhysand, you get to learn about, his city, his court, and, his found family. And it is sort of perfect. I mean, I gave this book 5 stars when I read it 6 years ago, and I would stay with this rating because it's so much better than the first one. It's better written. The relationship that is built between Feyre and Rhysand seems more real than the one that was built between her and Tamlin. There's a whole slew of emotions that Feyre goes to, after leaving Tamlin in the Spring Court and falling for Rhysand. She has this sort of self-hate that is still present from the first book, about, how can she sort of quickly move on. She's also learning how to deal with her Fae new body, and she's learning how to fight. She's learning how to be. She's learning about her powers, and it's so well done that I don't know what happened, with the first one and this one. So yeah, really really enjoyed this one, and the ending is just perfect. It's so good. I like Sarah J. Maas endings. She always does something kind of explosive and cliffhangery and sets up this new situation that really wants you to continue on with the series. So the ending of this one is basically throughout the book, Tamlin is trying to get Feyre back, and basically to figure out and his sort of ultimate act of betrayal is that he allies himself to, what's his name, Hibrand, the evil Fae king that wants to enslave all the humans and conquer all the whole continent of the Fae, because he comes from another land. And he basically allies himself with him so he can get Feyre back. And in the process, he is sort of instrumental in turning Nesta and Elaine, Feyre's sisters, into Fae, which is kind of bad because both of them have grown up with hating the Fae, the same as Feyre has, and now they're basically Fae. And this brings on a very interesting dynamic because as they're being turned into Fae, we find out that Lucian, one of the high members of the Spring Court, that his mate is Elaine. And there is a connection between Nesta and Cassian. This is what the 4th book is about. That's what I'm building up to read. This is the one that I haven't read. And of course, Rhysand and Feyre are mates as well. So it creates an interesting dynamic, and I am really, really enjoying it. So I am now, because I finished yesterday and I started this one. So I am now, I read this before. So that's where all the thingies come from, but I'm doing it again. And tabbing all the fun stuff. So I am now at 200 pages of this one. Basically, in the first 100 pages, Feyre uses her cunning to destroy the Spring Court, which was so well done, and it was so. It's a bit like a level up from her, let's say, abilities of the previous book, but whatever. It's a fantasy romance. I am suspending my disbelief, with her power up, but whatever. So basically that's what she did. Now they're all back together at the Night Court with Lucian and the sisters and everyone, and they're trying to figure out how to fight this humongous threat. Yeah, and I am enjoying it. I'm going to go to reading it now. I'm immerse reading, which is fun. Yeah, I will let you know when I read some more. Of course, forgot to mention. So this one, with the prompts of the Rogue for Lovember. Hate to Love, no, not Hate, is it Hate to Love? Yeah, Hate to Love is one of them. Technically, she hates him from the first book because of the, hates Rhysand from the first book because Rhysand has built this persona to protect his true court. And that turns to love. Yes. Fantasy romance? Yes. Because they're all fae in a magical land with powers and shit. And now the criminal element. See, this is gonna stump me with the third one, I think. Maybe it will be, because, I don't know. There isn't a criminal, I mean, they're not thieves, they're not, I mean, they are doing stuff inside their courts. They're seen, okay, Rhysand is seen as someone who is so evil by everybody else. And Feyre does in the beginning, but that's just basically because of his put-on persona and his mask. So, I don't know. Can we stretch that to make him a criminal so that, you know, it would fit all the prompts? Okay, we'll see with the third one and the fourth one. We'll see with the Nesta and Cassian book. Maybe we can fit that for the criminal prompt. But anyway, fits 2 of the 3 prompts. This is awful. Anyway, so it's later in the day, and I finished this. This is book 3 in the, what is it? Court of Thorns and Roses, ACOTAR series, and I just fucking loved it. I just enjoyed it so much. This series, it's a fun read. Definitely, it can be a bit dramatic. I did cry at certain points towards the end, but it was so epic, the entirety of, let's just say, their situation, and how they were dealing with the biggest threat of war and the war itself, and then, you know, different, let's just say, problem-solving techniques that they used. It was, I don't know, I have no words right now because it's late. I have to go and get ready for tomorrow for work. But yeah, I finished it. And first, let's go through the prompts for the rogue tic-tac-toe thing. So, fantasy romance, check. Hate to love. Well, Nesta and... Is it love, though? Nesta and God, Cassian. It's not. I think that'll happen for the next one. Criminal. See, now, I thought about this. And I think criminal can fit if we stretch it. And if... You know, because certain characters... So, Rhysand in the first and the second book, and the third one, of course, was... considered evil by many of them. In the third one, we had Tamlin being evil because he was working with the enemy. So yeah, I'm gonna like stretch criminal to fit that, so that would fit, you know, with this one. I'm like killing it all the prompts. I'm really proud of myself. So yeah, I finished the third one. So in the third one, we followed the continuation of Feyre's and Rhysand's relationship. We followed the beginning of something happening between Nesta and Cassian. Nesta is Feyre's sister, who was fucking horrible in the first one. A bit better in the second one. And here in the third one, we sort of see some semblance of, you know, what was happening with her. And in the third one, she's kind of as nasty as in the first one, but more towards everyone than just Feyre, because she's protecting Elaine, the other sister. They were both forcefully turned into fae, so that was a problem throughout the book. And you have the Nesta figure and her powers, what she can do, and how to help them destroy whatever's happening in the world. So yeah, I've read it, and that's a lot. That's like 3 books in 3 days, basically. Oh my lord. Yeah, so that's technically so many pages for Lovember, and I still have 1 book left. I think that's... Oh, that one's humongous. Let me show you. So this is the one I have left that I want to read. That the whole reread was so I can read this humongous thing. And this humongous thing has... And this thing has 751 pages. So yeah. Not sure if I'll start today. But yeah, that's the next one on the TBR for this readathon. Technically, this readathon is happening till the end of the month, but I want this vlog to come out sooner. So yeah, no, I want to focus on the other readathon I'm participating on. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I'll talk to you when I read something. So it's late. It's almost midnight. I am now at 40% of A Court of Silver Flames. I understand why it's called that now. It's something to do with Nesta's powers. So what I wanted to talk about in this 40% is the intensity and the antagonistic nature of Nesta's and Cassian's relationship, which at moments can be a bit much, that I had to pause and, step away from the book and then come back later after a little break, because Nesta's actions are driven by the trauma that she experienced, and basically that trauma is making her want to push everyone aside and making her worse than she was in book one. But here the author just manages to portray her as a sympathetic character, and as we see her work through her trauma and as we see her trying to get better, and we see the state that she started in at the beginning of this book, because I didn't read the small little short story novella thing that happens between book 3 and book 4, because I didn't want to. And seeing where Nesta started at the beginning and where she is now at 40% of the book, she's trying to not just fix herself, but that is also done begrudgingly because she has no options, but also trying to, I guess, help others, but others who don't know her and others who she doesn't have a history with. It seems to be helping her in some sort of way. Yeah, it's been kind of intense. Her and Cassian, Lord, let's just say that this book seems more, I don't want to say crude, but it seemed more realistic than when it came between the romance between Feyre and Rhysand, because there had this sort of romance to it, as in, people were sort of romantic. I mean, the author was sort of romantic about the whole thing. You had that, I don't know how to explain it better. This one, basically, I just read a scene where Nesta basically blew Cassian in the dining room, and he was like, dude, that is so completely different than any kind of smutty scene that we got so far in this series. And I don't want to say it's grown up, but it seemed more real. It seemed more real than anything we had before. So it definitely gives the whole thing a different element. Makes it, I think, a bit more interesting, because all of it seems more raw and seems more, I don't want to say feral, but, Anyway, interesting so far. So the plan is to try and read. I'm not going to continue on because I've already read 300 pages today, so I'm going to stop today. And I have a work engagement tomorrow that will keep me away from the book for the majority of the day. So hopefully I get to read maybe 200 pages tomorrow, so I can maybe finish it on Wednesday. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm enjoying it, and I'll talk to you when I read some more. So I finished the book. It's it's past midnight here, so I'm just gonna say that I don't remember the last time I cried so much while reading a book, and I am very appreciative of Sarah J. Maas's ability to make me feel a variety of emotions while reading her stories. So yeah, that's only thing I can think to say right now, and then I'll just wrap the whole thing up tomorrow morning, and just fuck. It was so good. It was so good. I loved it, and yeah, I'll talk about it more tomorrow. Well, hi, it's tomorrow, and I've slept on it. I'm ready to talk about this thing that I just finished. I almost hit myself in the head with this, but whatever. Yeah, so what is this one about? So in this one, And the first trilogy dealt with this threat of a king from a different continent trying to basically conquer this one, conquer the Fae, conquer the humans, and the first trilogy dealt with him basically. But now we have things that are left from his plans and machinations. So one of those things is one of the former human queens who have been transformed into the Fae. And in this one, the human queen is trying to collect this trove of powerful artifacts to help her with her allies. First, set free this ancient, very powerful being, and second, also get revenge for her Nesta basically fucking up her transformation into Fae. And that's like B plot. Main plot is Nesta and Cassian. Now, here's the thing. I'm gonna put this down because it's heavy. So I read the whole series in like 5-6 days. And from the beginning, Nesta hasn't been a very likable character. She has been very cruel, very dismissive of Feyre, and very just vicious to anyone but her baby sister Elaine. And in this book, we find out why that is, why she is the way she is, and to see her character going from rock bottom at the beginning of the book, which sort of started after the war because of, trauma and stuff. To see her go from that to here, to building herself up, to making connections outside of our core group, which, as I was thinking about it, really, really works, because she wanted like a fresh start, but also to find someone that she can share all her trauma with and all her history with, and to find like-minded people that that can understand her and that can help her get better. My one question is, but that's because of my personal experience, is why Nesta could not find that with her own family. So with Feyre and Elaine, at least Elaine, thinking about that, Elaine is so different from Feyre and Nesta. If she ever gets a book, which hopefully she will, it will be very interesting to find about her inner life, inner thoughts and such, because like so different from the rest of her sisters, and it just makes for a very interesting dynamic. But I kind of hoped that Nesta would be a bit more, she would be closer at the end of the book, closer to her sisters, because Nesta found a new sisterhood for herself. Not saying that she rejected Feyre and Elaine, but she found herself a newfound family, and one that includes Cassian. Their relationship, first of all, I said before, this was like way more explicit than anything that we ever had in this series, and definitely their relationship is very different from what was happening between Feyre and Rhysand, and it was an interesting read, definitely. It was a fun read, and oh my god, I cried so many times with Nesta just trying to work on herself and just fucking up, and the anger and the everything. It was just so, oh my god, it was so emotional to read. It was very impactful, and just, oh my god, I still have no words. I do want to say that what I like about the series overall, usually when you read like fantasy romance in a series, and like different books follow different characters, usually those characters go through those couples go through similar points of like their relationship, right? And as I said before, this was Castian and Nesta are so different than Feyre and Rhysand, and it was refreshing, it was interesting, it was fun, and I don't know, it was so good. I loved it. I really enjoyed the book, and I am looking forward to hopefully books in the series that will continue on. I know the author is now focusing on her urban fantasy, humongous things, the House of something. I haven't read those yet. Overall, I have now finished my TBR for Lovember. I read 4 books, so the entirety of the ACOTAR series. The first one, just read it and survive to get like context, and then the second, the third, and the fourth are just fantastic. If you've read the ACOTAR series and you want to share your thoughts down below in the comments, please do down below. Yeah, there are some links in the description box for you to check out. If you like this video, please press the like button. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And that is it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!